Hey, I'm gonna run through one of the tests real quick so you can check your answers. It's the one that begins audiase from audio audire. So the first thing I'm gonna notice when doing this is that audio audire is fourth conjugation. I know that because the ire in audire. So if you're looking, what I want you to see is, sorry, I'm learning shapes. Yes. What I want you to see. Okay. Nope, don't love that. One sec. No, there. And solid. Oh, that just makes it what? Take off the there. Okay. Sorry for about that. Audire. You look at the second principal part to determine the conjugation number. Ends in IRE, that makes it fourth conjugation. Fourth conjugation has a few properties, including the fact that'll tell us how it forms its future. So future tense for fourth conjugation, the tense marker is an IE. I just told you E/IE because it's E for third conjugation and IE for fourth. And so that's how you form future tense. That's what that's how you form for future tense for third and fourth conjugation is E/IE. And the present subjunctive, well, we remember our thing like what was it? He eats a liar? That doesn't sound good. There are a number of them. We eat caviar is one of the famous ones, where first is E, second is EA, third is A, fourth is IA. So for the present subjunctive, we'll use the IA from the end of caviar. So those two tense markers we need to remember. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this and I'm going to notice what principal part it comes from. So if we look at this, right, the present stem typically will be audire minus the RE. So the present stem will typically be audi. If I see audi, I know it probably comes from the second principal part. If I see audi wa, because audi we minus the I is audi wa, then it probably comes from the third. And if I see audit, because auditus, that ascending is just can go osi omo. So if I see audit, it probably comes from the fourth principal part. So just noting this very quickly. Can I draw on this? Yes, I can. Audies second, audios second, audis second, audire second, audirent second, audienti second, audito. We finally have one that has a T here. Fourth, auditumesse, clearly from auditus. Fourth, audiebaris. Doesn't have the V, doesn't have the T. That makes it second. Audiwerent has the V. Third. Can I scroll? Yes, I can. Auditus eram. Fourth. Audituris eram. Fourth. So now we look at these. This has the long E. That will be the tense marker. So with that tense marker, I now know that it is future. Oh boy, this is not easy to draw with. Let's see if there's an easier way to do this. Is there? Oh boy. Okay. With that tense marker, I now know that it is future. And I know that is future. And it's, indicative. Indicative is the mood when it's, indicative is your default mood, is kind of the way I think of indicative. So we got a future indicative, that's because of that long E tense marker. Now, the voice is active. For the present, imperfect, and future tenses, the voice will just be determined by the ending. So if it were ris, it would be passive, but with an S, it's active. And then that S is your second person singular ending. So second, singular. With all that information, I can translate it. You will hear. Audios, that IA is your present subjunctive marker. So in this case, present subjunctive. Just like with, just like, again, present, imperfect, or future. Present, imperfect, future. All of those are the present system, will determine their voice by their ending. So audios is present active, audioris would be present passive. So this stays active. The S is an active ending, right? It's OST musste sunt, aris term permanenter, or MST musste sunt in this case. And the S is again second and singular. So in this case, you may hear, or you should hear, or let you hear. You may hear, or you should hear are probably the best. I'll also accept you might hear. Audis. This is just second principal part minus the RE. You get audi with the S ending. No vowel shift, no nothing. So this is just your present indicative. Remember, indicative is your default mood. Again, the S means that it's active because it's for present, imperfect, and future. You look at the ending to determine if it's active. The S also means it's second singular. So these first three were meant to contrast with each other to make sure you understand how to read the vowels for a fourth conjugation verb. Audire, second principal part with no ending. This is your present active infinitive, the first kind of infinitive you learned. We're going to call infinitive a mood for our purposes. Infinitives do not have person or number, so you can leave those blank. The way you translate an infinitive is to. It's present active, so we're just going to say to here. Audirent, that infinitive, but then you add on an ending. That's how you form the imperfect subjunctive. I'm going to be a broken record here. We know it's active because the ending is an active ending. With imperfect, with present, imperfect, future, you can determine if it's active or passive based on the ending. The NT happens to be third person plural. We will translate it. They may hear. Oh, sorry. They might hear. I would also accept they may hear, but I like they might hear for the imperfect. I use may versus might to distinguish between present and imperfect. I don't really think you need to. I don't feel like there's a big difference between may and might in English. So you can say you might hear up here, and you can say they may hear down here, but that's just how I like to do it. Aldi and T. We're going to call this a present. So, sorry, I should say what I'm looking at. What I noticed for Aldirent, right, was that RE followed by an ending. What I noticed for Audire was that RE not followed by an ending. What I'm noticing for Audient is actually that NT followed by a third declension ending. I'm realizing that this is from audiens audientis. And what it is, whoops, I mistyped. Audiens audientis, right? Where audiens would be the nominative, audientis the genitive, audienti the dative. This is your present active participle, that NT followed by an ending. So present active participle. Participles do not have person. They can't be first person, second person, third person. They have case, if you wanted to put that, but you don't need to. I didn't leave you a place to put that. You can actually tell that this is singular, because we know it's dative singular. I don't care. I'm not like, for participles, I don't care about person number. You translate it hearing. That's how you do a present active participle. Audito. Let's say singular. I won't mark you wrong for omitting singular. I just don't care about it for participles. But you definitely, there is no person. Audito. This is the fourth principal part. I can tell that. And then because there's nothing else except the fourth principal part, I know that it's the perfect passive participle. That O ending is just another way of saying dative or ablative singular. Perfect passive participle. Again, because it's a participle, it doesn't have person. And I don't particularly care about the number, but if you are going to write number, it's singular. Audito. Auditis would be the plural, right? For dative or ablative. But having been blanked is how we do it. So having been heard in this case. Auditum esse. So the perfect passive participle plus the infinitive esse. Remember, this is a math equation, I told you. So what we're doing is, let's say, auditum on its own would be the perfect passive participle, and esse on its own is the present active infinitive. So we add. Perfect plus present is just perfect. Passive plus active. Active is kind of like a zero. The passive is the thing that wins out. And also anything with fourth principal part, with the exception of future active participles, most things with fourth principal part are going to be passive. So just so you know. And then participle plus infinitive, it just takes on the mood of whatever the form of esse is. So in this case, it will take on the infinitive mood. So we'll say infinitive. I would argue infinitives don't have person and number. Arguably, we can tell that this is a singular infinitive because auditum is clearly being linked to something in indirect discourse, presumably. But let's not worry about that. We're not going to give person and number to infinitives. So the way we're going to do infinitives for this test is to have been blanked. The to makes it infinitive. The have makes it perfect. The been makes it passive. To have been blanked. All right. Audie baris. We said it's from the second principal part. Means it's present, imperfect, or future. We know it's the BA, so we know it's imperfect. So this is our imperfect. Indicative. Remember, indicative is our default. Now, the next thing you're going to notice is what's its tense. Well, to figure out, or what's its voice. To figure out its voice, and sorry, to review, the thing I'm looking at that tells me it's imperfect is that BA. Imperfect indicative is that BA. To tell its voice, we got to look at the ending, because if it's present, imperfect, or future, you tell its voice by the ending. Ris is one of your passive endings from aris term erminiunter, and it is our second person singular passive ending. All right. And the way we're going to do that is you, second person singular. Were being, that's imperfect passive. Heard. I will also accept just you were heard. I think conveys it well enough. But if you want to hear that blanking of imperfect, you can do the you were being heard. So the being is optional. You were heard or you were being heard. Both of those to me convey imperfect passive. Audi weren't. This is from the third principal part. The third principal part is used for perfect pluperfect, and future perfect active. So I know it's one of those tenses. By being third principal part, I already know it's active. Just because it's third principal part, I know active. All right. Now, is it perfect, pluperfect, or future perfect? There are actually two possible answers for this one. So I'm going to give you both. It can either be the perfect subjunctive or the future perfect indicative. Both of those are valid options here. You can't tell the difference. We're going to call it third person plural because of that NT ending. Now we're going to do they. That's third person plural. Let's do the perfect subjunctive first. The way I'm going to do perfect subjunctive is might have. It's active. If it were passive, I would have done might have been. They might have, they should have, they may have. All of those are fine. It's also okay for the perfect subjunctive, I will say, to translate it indicatively. I think the place you'll see perfect subjunctive most often is either in a cum clause or indirect question, and those would be indicative. You'll translate as indicative in those. But let's say they might have. Let's use the might to really convey. Might for subjunctive, have for perfect. They might have heard. Yeah, it could be potential subjunctive, showing possibility space. They might have heard. The other is the future perfect indicative. So they for third person plural, will for future, have for perfect. They will have heard. The idea of future perfect is it's perfect from the perspective of the future. So by tomorrow, they will have heard that the king is dead. We haven't told them yet, but by tomorrow, they will, in the future, have previously heard. So they will have heard, future perfect. All right, audito serum. What I'm noticing here is that it's fourth principal part, and then the thing that gives it, I keep forgetting to do this. The thing that gives it away for Audi Werent is that ERI. That's what I'm looking at to determine the tense marker. It's either from ero, eris, erit, which is the future perfect pattern, or erim, eris, erit, which is the perfect subjunctive pattern. When I look at auditus eram, the thing I'm looking at is that eram is what gives it away for me. The fourth principal part plus an imperfect of sum. This is addition again. So like earlier, where I was saying we can do perfect passive participle. That's auditus plus imperfect well, let's ignore, we know it's passive because it's fourth principal part. The perfect participle plus the imperfect, maybe it's even just best to say it's the perfect passive participle. That's where we get perfect. Perfect plus the imperfect indicative, because eram is the indicative. So because eram's the indicative, we know this is going to be indicative right off the bat. Remember, indicative is just your default. Subjunctive is possibility space, participle are verbal adjectives, imperatives are commands, and infinitives are kind of verbal nouns, but also indirect statement. But indicative is just your default. So eram's the indicative. Perfect plus imperfect gives us the pluperfect. We know it's passive because it's fourth principal part plus a form of essay. And now because of that M ending, I know it's first person singular. So we're going to do I for first person singular, had for pluperfect, been for passive, and then heard. Had for pluperfect, been for passive. I had been heard. Auditoris esse. This is the weirdest one. This is fourth principal part, which would make you think it's the perfect, pluperfect, or future perfect passive. That's what you should be thinking when you see fourth principal part. But there is a really, really important thing here, and that is that you are. So that you are is going to be what gives away to me that this is actually not any of those. Auditoris on its own is your future active participle. That's auditoris, just auditoris. The problem is it's being used with esse. For the record, in real Latin, you can just imply the esse, so be on the lookout always for future active participles because they could end up being this. But when you use the future active participle with a real or implied esse, what you end up with is an infinitive because esse is the infinitive. And you get a future active infinitive. That's your future active participle plus the infinitive esse gives you a future active infinitive. And so the best way to do this is to piece it together in English, the same way they do in Latin. To be is that infinitive esse. About to hear is that future active participle. To be about to hear. You can also say to be going to hear, but I think that sounds a little clunkier. Either of those is fine. All right. Second part. These forms of deleo, delera, delewi, deletus, to destroy. So first thing, I'm going to go through. I'm going to figure out what participle or what principal part are all these from. So is it from delay? Is it from delewa? Or is it from delate? That pattern, by the way, of noticing both of the ones on this, their perfect stem ended in a V, and their perfect passive stem ended in a T. That's not so uncommon. So this is third because it has the V. This is third because it has the V. This is second because it has neither the V or the T. This is second because it has neither the V or the T. This is fourth because it has the T. Fourth because it has the T. Third because it has the V. And second because it has neither the V nor the T. Second thing I need to know. What conjugation number is this? A long ERE is second conjugation. So things to know about second conjugation. It forms its future tense with BI. Sorry, its future indicative is formed with BI. And remember, I put the I in parentheses usually because it's really bo, bis, bit, bimis, bitus, bunter. So it can be bo or boo or even beris, be. But bi is kind of the root idea of that whole pattern. That's how it'll form its future indicative. And it will form its present subjunctive in the he eats a giant or we eat caviar from that EA, the second conjugation. So these two are things we know because it's ARE, long ERE. So now let's go. Third principal part means that it's perfect. Sorry, that it's perfect, pluperfect, or future perfect, and we know it's active. It is definitely active. Third principal part is always, always, always active. In fact, let's just get rid of that now. Third principal part is always, always, always active. Fourth principal part is almost always passive. And second principal part could be either. But third principal part, always, always, always active. Okay. The thing I'm noticing on this, the thing that stands out to me, is that isse without an ending. Isse without an ending, that's just your present active infinitive. Remember, we're not going to give infinitives number, person, or number. Present active infinitive. Whoops, not present. Perfect. Active infinitive. I apologize. Whew. Hopefully no one's watching this too quickly. Perfect active infinitive. Isse. So, because it's perfect, pluperfect, or future perfect. So the way I'm going to translate it is two, that makes it perfect. Two, that makes it infinitive. Have, that makes it perfect. Destroyed. Have blanked, right? Is many translations of the perfect have blanked is one of them. But to have destroyed, that will make it the perfect active infinitive. You won't see a lot of these in the wild. Most of them will be being inside an indirect statement. So usually they'll be translated indicatively. But for this test, to have destroyed. Deluisem. I'm noticing the same thing. I'm noticing again in Deluisem that ISSE, except this time it's followed by an ending. So remember how above, if we took the present active infinitive and we had an ending, we got the imperfect active subjunctive. Something similar happens here. If you take the perfect active infinitive and you add an ending, you get the pluperfect active subjunctive. With that in mind, this one is first person and singular because MST must sunt. And so two options here. One, if you really want to hear it as subjunctive, you go like I might or I would. I might have or I would have. Those will make it sound subjunctive, heard. And most often a pluperfect subjunctive will be kind of almost translated indicatively. I had heard. I guess it depends if it's conditional or not. So this is translating more indicatively. I'm fine either way. I might have heard, I would have heard. Those make it sound more subjunctive. But oftentimes this will be in a cum clause or an indirect question, one of the ones that will translate it as indicative, even though it's subjunctive. So I had heard, because had is your magic pluperfect word. Delay, the second principal part minus the RE, but without any ending. So actually that's what I'm noticing is the lack of an ending. So let me just put something over here. In the absence of an ending, what I probably have is an imperative. And specifically, we know it's a singular imperative. Because if it were a plural imperative, it would have te, right? Delete. Now, things you might not have thought about for imperatives, but are true, is that the imperatives are present tense. It's something I want you to do now. They're active voice. I'm not asking you to be destroyed. I'm asking you to destroy. And it's second person because you're commanding someone to do it. There actually is a passive. There actually is a passive imperative. It's not super important. So you haven't learned it yet. But this is just destroy because it's a command. It's an imperative. So yeah, again, what you should have thought about immediately, you should recognize it's imperative and singular. If you think about imperatives in general, all of the ones you know are going to be second person, present, and active. There are third person future imperatives. They're archaic. Don't worry about them. There are passive imperatives. They're rare. Don't worry about them. All the imperatives you know are second person, present, and active. And then your only question is, does it end in TE, so it's plural, or does it end in nothing, so it's singular? Destroy. Either way, it would be translated destroy, too. Delay. What I'm noticing is that ERI. That ERI is the marker of a passive infinitive for the second person, for the second conjugation. So I didn't have you write up here what the passive infinitive would look like. But just remember, ARI is first conjugation, ARI, second conjugation, E, third, and ERI, fourth. These are your passive infinitives. And I've told you also, on the real test, I will make sure that one of them, that somewhere on it, you are tested on this third conjugation passive infinitive because it's incredibly common. Like we've seen it several times in the very little Latin that we've done, though some of them were deponents, so they were technically active. But this ending as an infinitive ending is incredibly common. Anyway, right now what we're seeing is ARI, the second one. So delay, that's your present passive infinitive. In contrast to ARE, which would have been your present active infinitive. To do a present passive infinitive, we say to, that's infinitive, be, that's passive, destroyed. Be destroyed, right? That's your passive. All right, deletos est, fourth principal part. I should already probably be thinking it's perfect. It's one of the perfects. It's either perfect, pluperfect, or future perfect, and it's passive. And indeed, without that UR, we can confirm all that's true. So I'm just dragging down passive already. All right, remember this is a math equation. So what we got is we have the perfect passive participle. I'm going to take the perfect from that, plus the present indicative of SA. So that perfect plus present is going to equal perfect. And because SA is indicative, this will be indicative. If it had been sit, it would be subjunctive. We just get our mood from that form of SA. The est is third person and singular. So we usually do our third person he, she, it, but in this case, we can actually see with that us that this is probably the masculine. He was destroyed. You can also say he has been destroyed. Something I really want to point out, has, z, not had. Has, not had. Sorry, alarm's going off. Oh, okay, 1 sec. Ding, okay, I got 4 minutes, and then I gotta go. So let's finish this quickly. Deleti essent. So earlier, the thing I noticed was est. Really, right? That's your present indicative. Here, the thing I'm noticing is essent. Essent is the infinitive SA plus an ending, which we talked about earlier. That makes it the imperfect subjunctive, right? The imperfect subjunctive is just the infinitive with endings added on. So we know it's passive because it's fourth principal part. Perfect plus imperfect gives us pluperfect. And then the mood is subjunctive because essent is subjunctive. That NT ending is third and plural. So 2 options with the pluperfect subjunctive. One is to do it more subjunctive. They might have been. Might subjunctive, have been, makes it past and passive, or they would have been destroyed. Both of these are good translations. Or you can imagine that you're seeing it in a cum clause or indirect question, and you can just translate indicatively, they had been destroyed. All right, Deloisti, third principal part. That makes it the active, and it's perfect, pluperfect, or future perfect. The thing I'm noticing is that it has this istis ending. That is from our perfect chant. E istia, imus istis erunt. So that makes it perfect and indicative. Indicative is your default. E istiat, imus istis tells me that it's second person and it's plural. So that's why I'm going to say y'all destroyed. Perfect tense actually has several translations. So y'all destroyed, y'all have, not had, y'all have destroyed, or y'all did destroy. All work. Deleatus. The thing I'm noticing in deleatus is that EA, which we marked up here earlier as the thing that the present subjunctive will be. So that EA makes it present subjunctive. For present, future, and imperfect, the only way you can tell active versus passive is based on the ending. In this case, the ending is tis from OST, must tus unt. That's our active pattern. And that tis makes it second person, plural. Whoops. Sure. Plural. So we're going to translate it. y'all might destroy, or y'all may destroy. Y'all may or might destroy. Even y'all should destroy will work here. All right. That's it for number one. Thank you guys. Have a good day.